When it comes to this, I always ask myself, why don't people do it? Honestly, why doesn't anyone just do it? Of course, this is not an insider tip either, but it is often totally underestimated. So many people have watched my videos on metabolism in the last few weeks and months. I had more than 1 million views in the last few months. And it seems to be a very interesting and relevant topic for all of us. And that's why I'm going to go into it a little deeper now and provide an update, a reload. So if you really want to lose weight, you should watch the video now and, above all, implement the things that I recommend. You should do it, just start and follow through. So you want to lose weight but don't know exactly how? Then the magic word for you is boost your metabolism. And with the metabolism in the so-called turbo mode, you can lose the excess pounds in a targeted manner and get closer to your dream figure naturally. That's what the internet always promises as well. In order to achieve that, in order to really reach that goal, I will now give you 5 tips on how you can give your metabolism a boost without any magic, but with really simple tips that you can implement easily into your everyday life. And that's why my first tip to you is, you should really start doing that now. Hello, my name is Dr. Tobias Wegel. With my YouTube channel, I want to provide medically understandable and correct information about diseases and their symptoms, but also topics such as exercise and health because this is so important for us. And if you don't want to miss anything, then subscribe to my channel now. Without a doubt, the word metabolism is something that keeps popping up in your life, especially when it comes to discussions about shedding pounds, losing weight, and attaining that perfect beach body look. But what does the word metabolism actually mean? What is this? What is it good for? The technical term is metabolism. What does that mean? Boosting the metabolism, stimulating the metabolism, good metabolism, bad metabolism. You also read and hear a lot of nonsense and misinformation about this. And that's why we now want to shed some light on the darkness and clarify some very important things for you. How you can get your metabolism going in a really targeted way with the aim of losing weight through it, which is what most of you are interested in. So I will now give you 5 tips on how you can increase your metabolism in a targeted manner. And you should always remember which of the metabolisms you are talking about when you talk about increasing your metabolism, since there are different ones. Whether you mean fat metabolism, mineral metabolism, or carbohydrate metabolism, the focus in this video is on fat metabolism. This is also what is usually meant by metabolism. So let's discuss fat metabolism. And before I mention the tips now, I would like to quickly mention 2 terms that are often used in connection with metabolism, or to be more exact, with fat metabolism. And understanding these is also very important. Anabolic and catabolic metabolism. You may have heard these 2 terms in connection with weight training, fitness, sports, the gym, or something similar. Anabolism, which anabolic steroids stems from, refers to the buildup of substances. An example of carbohydrate metabolism. Some of the simple sugars that enter the cells from the blood are broken down into starch molecules and stored in the liver and muscle cells. Through that, they become more complicated, so to speak, from simple to complex. In the narrower sense, anabolism is often associated with protein buildup, especially in the muscles. You have probably heard this before, but that is only one of its functions. Anabolism also affects other forms of metabolism, i.e. the creation of substances. On the other hand, there is catabolism, the opposite of anabolism. Catabolism refers to the breakdown of metabolic products from complex molecule structures to simple substances. Or in weight training, if you train in a catabolic way, this always means that you'll have fewer muscles, the muscles are broken down. This process of catabolism is vital for the production of energy to supply the organs in your body. In other words, the nutrients stored in the various depots, for example in our muscles and fatty tissue, are broken down into their individual components so they can then be used up when the body needs energy. So if we need energy and there is none directly available, we take it from the depots in our body. This is what we call catabolic metabolism. When you say, I want to boost my metabolism, it's not entirely clear which of the different metabolisms you mean, for example, fat metabolism. And secondly, whether you want to build something up or break something down. Reducing fat, for example, can be very useful. Reducing and breaking down vitamins is probably not very useful to us. Of course, what we want to say is losing weight. That's what we colloquially mean when we say we want to boost our metabolism. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you 5 tips for, so that the pounds ultimately just drop easily. Listen now. Tip number 1, the right food. The first tip for an increased metabolism, fat metabolism, is actually quite obvious, but it is far too often neglected by many people. But please put your focus on this from now on because it is very important and ultimately very simple. The most important factor for our body is our diet, of course. So obviously we shouldn't cram it full of garbage. After all, we don't fill up a gasoline engine with diesel either. In the same way, there are certain foods for our body that are really efficient and really get our metabolism going. They're almost like giving our metabolism a turbo boost. Here's a collection of foods I've gathered and compiled into a list. All these are known to significantly increase energy expenditure in the body. You eat these foods, ingest them into your body, and they will do the work in your body, so to speak. Of course, it can be quite confusing and overwhelming to know everything that is written here, so you can stick to a rule of thumb as a tip. The more protein-rich the food is, the better it is for the metabolism. I want to dive deeper into this, and here one thing is particularly important, the so-called thermic effect of food. And what this thermic effect means is that in order to get the energy from the food, your body has to expend energy to process it. And the energy your body has to expend for the processing is particularly high when your diet contains a lot of proteins. So you burn the first calories while you are still eating and digesting. And this effect can be boosted even more, so that you burn even more calories through it. So eating the right things affects all our different kinds of metabolisms, from fat metabolism to protein metabolism and mineral metabolism. And now we'll take a closer look at how we eat properly in the second tip that I have for you. Tip number 2, eat spicy food. Of course, this is not an insider tip either, but it is often totally underestimated. I'm always surprised about that too. You kind of know that it's true, but in the end, you often don't do it. And I would therefore like to emphasize this once again. Spicy food, especially chili, can increase the thermic effect of food by up to 50%. Using the example of 200 grams of chicken breast, I will show you the math now. If you cook without chili, up to 35% of the calories are burned directly. So that means that out of the original 220 calories, there are still just under 150 calories left. But with a little chili in the dish, there are only about 100 calories left after everything is digested, and only those the body then stores away. This may not sound like much at first, but of course this will accumulate over time, and this is one of the best proofs of one of the oldest pieces of nutritional wisdom. You are what you eat. And it's little things like adding a little bit of chili here or other tips that I'm about to mention that ultimately make the difference in losing weight. Tip number 3, drink enough. When it comes to this, I always ask myself, why don't people do it? Honestly, why doesn't anyone just do it? Drinking is so important for a variety of reasons. And most importantly, fluid fills your stomach and boosts your metabolism for a short while every time you drink something. Up to even 1 hour after drinking a glass of water, the metabolism works almost 25% faster, using more energy. Picture this in your mind. Water contains no calories but has to be warmed up to body temperature and be processed in the body. And this is exactly what gets the metabolism going, because that consumes energy. And this is especially the case if the water is cool. It has been proven that your body needs quite a bit of energy to warm up the cold water you just drank. So here's my tip, and it's quite simple. It's best to drink a glass before eating. This way, you don't start your meal with a totally empty stomach. It's already a little full before, and of course you have the thermic effect of burning the food. And as I said earlier, water fills the stomach. A large glass of water before a meal will make you feel full more quickly, and as a result, you will then consume fewer calories overall. Especially the phenomenon of cravings that will you make start quickly and eat a lot can be reduced or even avoided by drinking water beforehand. And this is proven. A study shows that this is super effective, in which this 1 glass of water before every meal increased the weight loss of the participants by almost 50%. This is really effective, and of course it's very inexpensive. However, you don't necessarily have to drink water if you don't feel like it. Unsweetened green tea or coffee also have positive effects on your metabolism and through that increase fat burning. But let me give you some additional facts about green tea. Green tea can boost your metabolism even more than a glass of water. This is due to the catechins and flavonoids that the green tea contains. And both of these ingredients support and even promote the burning of fat in your body. And most importantly, green tea increases the production of heat in the cells, which results in an increased consumption of calories. And the second effect of green tea? There are bitter substances in the tea, and these bitter substances have an appetite-inhibiting effect and are therefore effective against cravings. And often, these cravings are the greatest sin. So drinking green tea is really a very good and effective tip. Tip number 4, get enough sleep. At first glance, this tip might seem counterproductive to most, because very few people assume that calories are burned by sleeping or doing nothing. But that's exactly how it is. If you have sufficient sleep, that will happen. It should be said, though, that at first, nothing happens during sleep. But on the next day, a good night's sleep will activate your metabolism in the morning and put it into turbo mode, you could say. So sleeping is very important. And also, poor sleep can make you ill. And you can watch this video here where I explain this. And I also explain why poor sleep, a lack of sleep in particular, leads to people putting on weight. At the same time, after a short night, a large amount of the hunger hormone ghrelin is secreted into your body. And this hormone is responsible for getting cravings. And secondly, it also increases the total amount of calories that you consume. You are hungry and above all, you have the munchies. This study that was conducted in 2021 shows just how important sleep is when people want to lose weight. It showed that sufficient and in particular good sleep led to greater weight loss, and most importantly, fat loss. Above all, we want to lose belly fat, and sleep is particularly important for this. Too little sleep makes you put on weight in the long run. So as a reference, you should get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And especially on the subject of sleep, I have also made some other videos. I just want to quickly mention 2 or 3 tips here. Firstly, it's best to always go to bed at the same time. Of course, this isn't always possible. Secondly, darken the room well. And thirdly, don't drink alcohol before going to sleep. Speaking of alcohol inhibits the metabolism. And of course, it would also be good to not look into your cell phone screen right before going to sleep. Of course, I sometimes find that difficult too, but you shouldn't be fiddling around on your cell phone when you're lying in bed. It's also bad for your eyes. So keep those tips in mind. And now let's go back to the metabolism. Tip number 5, exercise. And hopefully this tip won't come as a surprise to anyone, at least if they've been following my channel for a while. However, I am deliberately mentioning exercise as the last tip because diet and sleep behavior have just as great an influence on weight loss, but are much more often neglected. We're always aware that sports helps with weight loss, but probably forget about good sleep. But I have just explained why that's so important. Nevertheless, you should, of course, always remember that exercise has a huge influence on our metabolism, our weight, and more. Sport increases the basal metabolic rate because every movement, every tensed muscle consumes energy. Every tension will in the end consume more energy. Let's talk about the basal metabolic rate. The basal metabolic rate, because this is often asked, naturally varies greatly from person to person. A study has been carried out. In over 1,000 measurements, experts found a fluctuation range between 800 and 4,500 kilocalories per day, which is a really high figure. And this energy consumption at rest, the basal consumption cannot be stimulated, increased, or boosted. This just doesn't work. However, exercise can of course increase energy consumption and thus stimulate the energy metabolism and as a result, burn more calories. And that's exactly why we do sport. That's why sport is important. But sport, of course, has many more positive effects on us. It is generally good for our body, builds muscles, protects joints, etc. At the same time, additional muscles are formed during sport, and those then naturally consume more energy. All in all, sports creates this positive cycle. That's what makes sport so effective. Certain types of sport can even trigger a so-called afterburn effect. So it is the same as with nutrition. There are certain types of sport that have a greater effect. So you continue to burn fat long after you have finished exercising. And here I would like to mention training sessions with particularly high intensity, so-called high intensity interval training or short HIIT. This is a way of training in which you do some moderate training loads for a bit and then alternate with short but highly intensive loads. And the afterburning effect after doing this kind of training session is particularly strong and long-lasting, which naturally increases energy consumption during exercise. It is always important to do some basic sport, but also to incorporate such peaks with high loads from time to time, especially to get the metabolism going. And studies also show the effectiveness of this. Although this afterburn effect is sometimes seen as controversial in science, some studies were able to prove it to be true. And due to the relatively short workouts, fewer calories are burned overall, of course. You don't do as long a workout as with long endurance sessions. And that's why the afterburn effect is considered pseudo-training with dubious prospects of success by some of the scientific community. It does work, but it is not the most effective method if your goal is to lose weight. Sport does not even mean that you are consciously overloading yourself. This is also important to emphasize, and I can only advise against it. If you are not sure how fit you are, it might be enough to make some changes to your everyday routine at the beginning. That is the minimum, so to speak. And that's what I would recommend you to start with. Doing some of the housework standing up from now on will burn extra calories, just like going for a walk. Even office work can burn more calories if you just make some small adjustments. Of course, the most effective way to lose weight or body fat is still a combination of strength and endurance training that hasn't changed. What is the metabolism? Our metabolism is the basis to support all of the vital processes in our body. Roughly speaking, metabolism refers to all biochemical processes that take place within the cells. All of them. There are different types of metabolism, which is also important for you to know. You are probably familiar with fat metabolism. Or when we talk about metabolism, we always mean fat metabolism. But there is also the carbohydrate metabolism, for example. Of course, they also have to be processed. The protein metabolism, the mineral metabolism. When we eat something, the food components are metabolized in the cells, which means the food is broken down, converted into energy or molecules, and then built up into new products. That is how it works. That is metabolism. This means that our body is constantly looking after itself by using micronutrients and macronutrients. Micronutrients such as vitamins, minerals, trace elements, etc., as well as macronutrients such as carbohydrates, proteins, etc., or if they are not available, it will draw from reserves in the body. All of this is necessary so that the many vital processes we have and need can constantly be fueled and the functions of our body can run naturally. Again and again, our body needs energy for this. Some other things that are also important for the metabolism are hormones and enzymes. That's because the metabolic process is essentially controlled by hormones and also by the nervous system. So it's crucial. But other than that, environmental factors such as temperature can also have an effect on our metabolism. Feel free to comment on the video. Please write any tips you have directly below the video. Thank you very much and stay loyal to me.